Hey guys, I want to show you something really cool that you can do with Roo, and it actually saves you on operations in Make. Let's say that we want to create a unique link for each one of our users, and let's say to pointing to like his own page or his own area or an event. And but let's also say we want to track the number of clicks to that URL. So we have a table here in Airtable. We love Airtable, obviously, with a full name and a checkbox whether to create the URL, the short URL or not, a place for the URL, and a place where we want to update the number of clicks. Now, traditionally, what we can do here, we already saw that we can add webhooks to our short URLs. So what we can do is create a URL, send it to a make webhook, add a make webhook that whenever it's clicked, it will be triggered, and have that make scenario actually update Airtable. But I want to show you something even cooler you can do with Airtable webhooks. All right. So first thing we want to do is have an automation that whenever we check the create URL checkbox, it calls make to actually do the creation of the URL. If you're familiar with scripts and API, you can actually do that directly with the root API. But if you're more comfortable working and making the API calls inside Make, you can do that as well. So what we have here is an automation inside Airtable that whenever this record is updated, this field of create URL, run a script that triggers Make and calls the scenario. What happens inside Make is that we have the trigger here, we pull the record, and we create the short URL, and we update it back into Airtable. I'll run it and show you what happens, and we'll also see something really, really cool that we did here. All right, so I'll check the checkbox here, the create URL. You'll see that in a couple of seconds, this scenario will be triggered inside Make. It will pull the record, it will create the short root URL, and place it back here in the URL section of the in the URL column of the table. Everything pretty standard till now. Now, we said we wanted to track the number of clicks, and we said we want to do it in a smart way that doesn't consume operations on the make side at all. So what we actually did here, we went to Airtable's automation engine, and we created a trigger, an automation that is actually triggered not by a record or by a form or anything like that, but when a webhook is received. So Airtable has its own webhooks mechanism, its own triggers that you can create. And when you create an automation on a webhook received, you'll have the address of the webhook here. So it's hooks.airtable.com, the workflow, and obviously some sort of unique ID. We actually copy that into Roo's create URL. All right. So what we did here is added a webhook, added the Airtable webhook. The method is post. We told it to add the metadata. That is very important. We'll see why. And actually, as far as the payload, we have the full name and the record ID. All right, but we also we'll see how that is being used. So that's all we did here, the adding of the webhook when we created. And as far as make is concerned, we're done. We don't need to do anything else with make. Now, what we have here inside Airtable is, like I said, whenever this webhook is received, whenever it's triggered, do an update record action inside Airtable. Now, if you test the step, you'll test the trigger, you'll see that we get what we get for the webhook, all right, is the metadata, which we mark. Remember, it's very important to mark here, add webhook, yes, obviously, but add metadata, yes. Once we have that mark, you see that you have the metadata received inside as part of your webhook. Whether you're sending it to Make or Airtable, you'll get the metadata section. Inside, we have the short link, we have the destination URL where it's going, and we have the click count. Okay, so the click count is actually the piece of information that we want. So Roo can keep track of we can create a dashboard of how many times the link was clicked. We also have the data that is being sent, which is the payload that we put together. So we have the name and the record ID. And what we're actually doing inside Airtable, inside the automation, is really, really simple. We're doing an update record action. The record ID is the body data record ID, which we've sent as part of the payload. And the field we want to manipulate and actually update is the metadata count field. All right. So that will contain the number of times that link was actually clicked. So let's see that in action actually. So we'll click the link here. We see the number of clicks column is empty. Let me take that. And actually, so we'll see it side by side being run. I don't even remember where this link goes to, but it doesn't really matter. So we actually have the link. This is simulating obviously the click. Oh, it's going to our website. That's pretty cool. And you see that the record here was updated to number of clicks 1. If I do that again, number of clicks will be automatically updated to 2, and so on and so on. You can see it working on any number of clicks. All right, it was updated to 2. Click again. You see it updated to 3. I can watch that all day, actually, just seeing that number being updated. And it's so cool because not only do we get that information inside Airtable, we didn't consume any make operations to have that, right? So we're sending the webhook directly into Airtable. And think of a use case where you want to see, let's say you're sending a quote to someone. You want to have a dashboard of the number of times they clicked on that quote. And if you see that they're clicking consistently, give them a call. Because they're interested, they're obviously interested in the product or your offer. It can be a quote. It can also be a landing page with your offer or a sales page, but they're not converting. So you can actually have Airtable trigger whenever that number of clicks goes above whatever you decide. Like 5 times it was clicked, 3 times it was clicked, maybe even once if it's a client you want to follow up the second they click on that link, right? So whenever that number reaches the threshold, you can have an automation inside Airtable that triggers your CRM or triggers make from there to give them a call. Any scenario that you can think that actually gives you not only the dashboard, not only the data of how many times the link was clicked, but also make it actionable. You can do something with that. It's perfect for what we're doing here. So we've actually utilized the RU option for adding webhooks to click and the metadata that you get all the information on the actual click, and Airtable and its database obviously, but also its potential for triggering on data that changes inside, and you get a perfect machine for tracking number of links and also acting upon them if it's relevant. We love this. It's really, really cool. And what we love most is the business implication of that and how you can use that to actually enhance your business processes.